After years of war, South Sudan is celebrating independence from President Bashir's Republic of Sudan to the north. But the mood is very different in South Kordofan, an oil-rich region left on Bashir's side of the border. Last month, his regime launched an offensive against rebel forces in the area, despite the presence of UN peacekeepers. Fleeing civilians told stories of atrocities and indiscriminate bombing. An Al Jazeera team flew in secretly to discover the truth.
ولا إسلام لا في بطن أنه يرحم الأطفال ويرحم الأسر. عبادة جماعية ولكن الله كريم.
Last week in Juba, about to become the new capital of the new country of Southern Sudan, the mood was electric.
This is a blessed Sunday because it is the last Sunday in the old Sudan. Hallelujah!
It's impossible not to share the excitement. This is a new country which was born out of 25 years of war and 2.5 million dead. The problem is, of course, that the excitement has to be tempered by the fact that not very far away from here at all, a terrible war is still going on.
The stories and the smuggled mobile phone images emerging from the disputed state of Southern Kordofan are deeply disturbing.
So we have saw the aeroplane came, so we decided to hide ourselves in the bush.
They tell of executions, enforced mass migrations, families hiding in caves, and the indiscriminate bombing of civilian areas by the armed forces of the Khartoum government, the SAF. The area has been sealed off, and although no TV crew has been able to get there so far, we may have found a way. There is one group which has been running occasional clandestine flights, and we've managed to hitch a lift on one of those. The flights are risky. This area has been declared a no-fly zone, and government jet fighters patrol the skies, ready to shoot down anyone who defies the ban. Southern Kordofan lies on the border between North and South Sudan. It is strategically and geographically important and has significant reserves of oil. The Khartoum regime is determined to crush any resistance to its rule in the region.
Thank you.
The planes bring in aid and depart with displaced passengers. But the turnaround has to be very quick. Planes on the ground are a sitting target.
2 Antonovs on the way.
On the way here?
Yeah.
Just heard intelligence that the Antonovs are on their way. So it's 2 big Russian bombers, and this really is a prime target. That's why everybody's trying so quickly to get off the plane. They're not even putting in the seats, they're just piling everybody in and they're going.
We set off at high speed. A convoy like this is very vulnerable to attack from the air by Khartoum's jet fighters. To minimise that risk, the vehicles are camouflaged with mud and engine oil. The Nuba Mountains in the heart of Southern Kordofan are home to the Nuba people. Religiously mixed, Christian, Muslim and animist, they have been historically discriminated against by the Arabic regime in Khartoum. But many fear this latest campaign is already taking on the character of brutal ethnic cleansing of this resource-rich area.
We need to tell or to show to the out world that what is happening here. What happened in Darfur now is this, they are repeating it here in Nuba Mountain.
It's not the first time this has happened. In the 90s, hundreds of thousands died in a merciless campaign of terror by the government. Partly as a result, the Nuba people of this area threw their lot in with John Garang's Sudan People's Liberation Army in its long civil war with Khartoum, becoming some of his most loyal and effective fighters. When the peace agreement that ended the long civil war between North and South was being formulated, there were 2 sticking points.
Southern Kordofan and the Blue Nile, and they were essentially left to one side. As a result, today, while Southern Sudan prepares for independence, the orphan state of Southern Kordofan is preparing for a long and bitter war with its adoptive parent, the Khartoum government.
There are disputes about how this latest outbreak began, but there is little doubt it was deliberately precipitated early last month by Omar al-Bashir in Khartoum. In the compound of a local NGO, I spoke to Montasir Wakala.
What are these then?
This is what we made for self-protection from the bombs of the Antonov and the jet fighters.
So that's a bunker?
Yeah.
It's also clear that a central tactic is a campaign of terror against civilians.
When we hear the sound, we just reach here within less than 10 seconds from the office up to here, running.
I'll do it in 5. So what kind of weapons are these? They look like some kind of fragmentation device. What are these?
I'm not an expert, but they look like...
I'll tell you what they look like. They look like nails.
Nails, exactly.
Yeah,
but
it's a very sophisticated nail bomb. And a nail bomb is an anti-personnel device.
It's an anti-personnel.
And who was this targeted at?
They were targeting people, civilian. People living in their homes close to the airstrip. There is no military camps there.
But these missiles fired from jet fighters are not the only weapons used against civilians. They also use bombs, dropped from Russian-built Antonov transport planes.
This is one of the craters caused by the Antonov bombings. I mean, that's what, 15, 20 metres across, maybe 10 metres deep. This was a very, very big bomb.
And the consequences of these bombs are awful. This footage shows the aftermath of one such incident. In South Kordofan's only operating hospital, we found more victims. Najwa Konde of the Nuba Relief Rehabilitation and Development Organisation showed me round.
Yeah, she's a 16 years old girl. She's one of the victims of the air bombing. She lost her arm. In the beginning she was okay, but now she developed a tetanus and she's getting worse.
Most of these people are injured in the bombing, yeah?
Yeah, most of them are children and women.
And why are so many children affected?
Because they don't know what to do when the bomb comes.
So they run...
The other people, they can just lay down and take
cover.
But for the children, they're just innocent, they're just playing, so the bomb can affect them.
Most of the hospital's international medical staff were evacuated when the bombing began. Only 2 brave Catholic mission nurses and 1 doctor remain.
So who is this?
She's Uriah. She was wounded.
And she was what, hit by shrapnel?
Yeah, very serious head injury. The brain came out and she was stitched afterwards, but still there is brain damage. She will have brain damage for good. She's 15 years old.
She's 15 years old?
Yeah.
Tom Katena is the last doctor in South Kordofan.
The Antonov planes are flying actually transport planes. They're not meant as warplanes. So they're improvised bombers. So what they do is they roll the bombs, literally roll the bombs out of the back of the airplane. You can't target like a barracks or a building. It's a weapon of terror. They bomb an area and everybody takes off to the hills. You know? For me, it seems fully obvious they're targeting the civilian population.
But I mean, that kind of disregard for civilians, or indeed, as the evidence suggests, targeting of civilians to terrorize them, that's a war crime.
Yes, it is, of course.
But not all the victims are civilians. Soldiers, like these from the SPLA, die and are injured on both sides too.
These are war wounded from the battlefront. Mostly gunshot wounds, but occasional injuries, like this guy.
This does show every sign of being a nasty war. On the one hand, al-Bashir seems committed to crushing the Nuba people, but against him, the forces of the SPLA in South Kordofan, now effectively a separate rebel force in the north.
In some ways this war was expected, but the SPLA and indeed everybody who feared there would be a war expected it to happen after July the 9th, after independence. So why did Khartoum suddenly launch an offensive on the 5th of June? The answer is clear. the SPLA would be unprepared. And indeed, if you look at these guys, you know, they're not in uniform, they're sitting there with their guns, but some of these guys are trained soldiers and they don't even have AK-47s.
The man who leads this rebel force is Abdel Aziz al-Hilu, a respected SPLA commander during the Civil War. He was recently narrow defeated in the election for state governor in suspicious circumstances by al-Bashir's candidate Ahmed Haroun, wanted by the International Criminal Court for war crimes in Darfur. I was anxious to meet Abdel Aziz, but he is Khartoum's most wanted man and has not been seen since the war began a month ago. Then we met a man who could help.
Do you think it's going to be possible for us to meet him?
I'm trying.
You try?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm trying.
Well, that was a bit of luck. That was Said Kocho, who is Abdel Aziz's, basically his adjutant. And he said that he is going to do his best to try and set up a meeting with Abdel Aziz. Obviously, Abdel Aziz has to keep well hidden, has to keep on the move constantly. He is the prime target. So if we can set up that meeting, that would be very, very good indeed.
In fact, Abdel Aziz is lucky to be alive. He was in the state capital of South Kordofan, Kadugli, on the 5th of June, when Khartoum's forces, along with local Arab militias which they had armed, seized the town. I spoke to one witness who must remain anonymous to protect his family.
In the evening around 6 o'clock, I heard the gunshot everywhere almost in Kadugli.
So they were opening fire all over town?
All over town now. Everybody was just trying to run for their life.
And the shooting went on?
Day and night.
Abdel Aziz escaped, but al-Bashir's forces had a special message for him.
They have told Abdel Aziz they are going to chase him wherever he is, capture him and kill him.
Several thousand panicking civilians fled to the nearby UN base, which is manned by Egyptian troops, and set up a camp, which can be seen in the top left of this satellite image.
Your family were camped outside the UNMISS camp for protection?
Yeah, for protection. Police come inside the camp and they broke and every hand pump there. There were some people whom they are supporting SPLA, and then they taken outside the camp, and then some of them they have been killed.
Did the UNMISS troops do anything to protect the people?
Nothing done by the UNMISS for protection of the civilian there.
Why not?
This is what I want to know.
In fact, there have been several allegations that UN troops stood by while Sudan's armed forces killed and abused locals, but they are impossible to verify because the UN base in Kadugli is unreachable, surrounded by Khartoum's armed forces. So we travelled instead to another UN base in South Kordofan, near the village of Kauda. And there we found something unexpected.
Just over there, and there's another one just over there, is a very large unexploded bomb, one of the bombs dropped by the Antonovs. But what's extraordinary is that 200 metres over there is UNMISS, the UN mission to Sudan. These are soldiers whose job it is to protect local people. They haven't done anything about this, certainly haven't defused it, or even just blown it up. They haven't come out at all.
Unlike the UN troops at Kadugli, just 90 kilometres away, UN forces here are not accused of standing by while civilians are killed, although of course this area is still held by Abdel Aziz's northern SPLA. To my surprise, the young officers who appeared wore no uniforms. Clearly alarmed and feeling abandoned by the UN, they seemed almost grateful for the opportunity to tell the world about their plight.
You're sitting here waiting for something to happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're waiting for evacuation, but we don't know any news.
Right. So you don't know when you're going to be evacuated. You don't know what's happening. And in the meantime, you're trapped.
Yeah.
You can't go out on patrol.
No. No battles. No.
Some local people have told us that that you are very unpopular here.
Yeah.
You're very unpopular here.
Yeah.
That it would not be safe for you to go out. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not safe for you to go out. And also, I've been told that the SPLA are in fact protecting you because the SPLA.
Demonstration
and there are people coming here to demonstrate, and the SPLA have put a stop to that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for talking to me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It was an extraordinary situation and another indictment of the UN's performance here. But has the African Union done any better? Well, at the end of June, they did mediate what was called a framework agreement between Abdel Aziz's SPLM here in the north and the Khartoum government. Now, this agreement contained a number of high-sounding generalities, but probably 2 or 3 key points. The first was that the SPLM accepted that their future lay here in the north. The second point, perhaps rather surprisingly, is that Khartoum accepted that the SPLM had the right to exist as a political party. In other words, they were not simply a bunch of rebels. Probably the third key point was that there was talk of disarmament, and it said any disarmament would be done peacefully and by agreement. But there's a problem with that, and the problem is up there in the sky and just a few kilometers over there towards Kadugli. The problem is that there is no sign of any disarmament anywhere. This war is still going on. Next morning, word came through from the SPLA that we should get ready to move. We set off at speed, as always, eyes open for jet fighters from above. Even now, at the very start of the rainy season, it's clear how quickly an army could get bogged down. We're off. This would be a good time for the mix to come. In one village, we came across more evidence of the bombing of civilian targets and the graves of 8 recent victims. This is a civilian area. There's no excuse at all for dropping a bomb here. Eventually, we arrived at a secret location in the mountains. And then, from the darkness, Abdel Aziz himself appeared. Given the risks, his decision to take part in a filmed interview was significant. How is the war going, from your point of view?
We have liberated over 61 garrisons and outposts. We have liberated them totally from the National Congress Party forces. And we have over about four counties free from NCP. And even Kadugli County is now free except Kadugli town.
But the forces are not balanced. I mean, I've seen some of your soldiers who have no uniform, who have no guns. And against you, you have the forces of the SAF, they have heavy artillery, they have MiGs, they have Antonovs. Can you win this war?
You see, this is a war of liberation. The people of Nuba Mountains are determined to liberate themselves from the oppression. Even if there is superiority in the side of the NCP, it means nothing because we are defeating the NCP forces on the ground.
What about the UN?
Everybody here in the state believes that they are supporting SAF. In the presence of the unanimous forces, the National Congress security elements, they come and pick people just because of their political affiliation to the SPLA, and they shoot them. They shoot them in front of the unanimous, and sometimes they even facilitate. They identify this is an SPLM.
That's a very serious charge. Are you saying that the UN forces, the Egyptian UN forces, are actually collaborating with the Khartoum government, or are you saying
yes, they are cooperating, they are collaborating with the NCP security.
What do you expect from the UN?
We just want them to act as a third party, as a neutral body. If there is any cessation of hostilities, they have to act as monitors, but neutral monitors. Also, we want no-fly zone to be imposed here. We want also relief for the needy people in the Nuba Mountains, and they should not pay attention to Khartoum's threats.
The framework agreement, which was recently completed in Addis Ababa, if you read the agreement, you see that on the one hand it says that the SPLM accepts that its future is in the north under Khartoum. Equally, you see that the agreement says that the Khartoum government accepts the legitimacy of the SPLM as a political movement within the north. These are not realistic statements, are they?
Actually, for us, we believe that we are part of the north. but we want a new government. We want fundamental change in Khartoum. We want restructuring of the central government so that each region, each state is represented in the center according to its weight. We want a new Sudan built on a new basis of justice, of equality, of freedom.
But if you forgive me, that sounds a bit like what John Garang would have said 8 years ago. Realistically, do you believe that that is possible, or do you think that ultimately you will end up, as did the South, fighting for independence?
Actually, we want a new Sudan. A new Sudan built on new basis. But if that become impossible, then we opt for self-determination. We want self-determination for all the Sudanese people. We are aspiring for unity of all the marginalized people. We are actually inviting, you see, the Blue Nile, the Darfurians, the Bija, the far north, like the people of Kajabar Dam and the rest, to come under one umbrella, and we defeat Khartoum.
And with that, Abdelaziz left, and so did we for the long drive back. It had been a remarkable interview, nothing less than a call to arms to every group in northern Sudan which stands opposed to the regime of Omar al-Bashir. The next morning, in yet another village compound, we woke to the sound of an Antonov.
It's just after 6 in the morning, and we just heard the sound of the Antonovs over there. People were quite concerned, people were jumping in the bunker. Then the quality of the noise changed, and the people here said that means they started to bomb. There's more bombs.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah. More than 7 at once.
Yeah.
And then, as if on cue, Omar al-Bashir began a broadcast to the nation.
What Omar al-Bashir was saying there on the radio was that he was warning that they are already capturing any Nuba who have escaped from this region and have travelled up to Khartoum. They're being captured and they're being told they must either fight for the SAF, come back here and fight for the government forces, or if they don't, they'll be regarded as rebels and treated accordingly. He's certainly ramping up the pressure, and of course we can hear it, because actually while we're listening to that, we can hear the bombs going off just over there.
But Antonov or not, we had to leave. We had a rendezvous with a plane to take us out.
The commander yesterday was very careful to stress that he doesn't feel any sense of betrayal by the South. But for these guys here who fought so hard for that freedom and are now still fighting for their own, there's no doubt that they must regard the celebrations down in Juba for their independence with a certain amount of cynicism. We've just heard the sound of an Antonov quite clearly, and we've been told to disperse. The trucks have all moved and gone under cover. That's coming this way. Yeah, people are running. Okay, let's move.
It is an unpleasant experience, but a powerful reminder that while the people of southern Sudan may be celebrating, the war in South Kordofan is only just beginning.
This is just the nearest low piece of ground, so we'll just stay here and hope that nothing hits us.
5 minutes later, our plane appears in the sky. We can get out, but for the people we leave behind, there is no such luxury.